vamos a seguir con un capítulo que se llama La transición y sus formas.
Now we're going to continue with a topic which is called transition and its varieties. And under this heading, we're going to talk about two things. First, the various kinds of transition, and secondly, the specific nature of transition in each country. But before getting down to that, I think it's important to ask ourselves how long it would take us to build 21st century socialism? How long do you think it will be? Decades? Hundreds of years? Some people think it will take decades. But President Chavez says it will be very soon, in 11 years' time. Other intellectuals, like Samir Amin, thinks that just as capital took centuries to consolidate itself, so will socialism. It will be a long, long road to socialism. And there are others like me who think that socialism, as the full realization of human being, is a goal, something which will always be in the horizon, something that will illuminate the road, but which we will never reach completely. Here, I will leave open these three opinions on this subject. Now, which are these varieties of transition? The first, which never actually existed, was the one Marx foresaw. Marx thought that socialism would come about in the developed capitalist countries. The logic of capitalism, the contradiction of capitalism, the more capitalism is, the more contradiction it has, we're going to create the foundation of socialism. In fact, when Marx lived, there were big factories with huge conglomerate of workers who live in workers' neighborhood near the factories. They were hyper-exploited. They had a common workers' life. They were united by the whole system. In addition, they were learning a system of collective work, because one of the things that capital does is to demonstrate to workers it's impossible to produce goods without collective work. When there is a high level of capitalism development, workers become more connected to each other. There really never was a revolution which made it possible to set up socialism in the developed countries. Where did the revolution take place? What happened historically? The revolution took place, as Lenin said, in imperialist weakest link, in Russia, an extremely underdeveloped country, almost a serfdom, where 90% of the population were peasants, where people had difficulties finding enough to eat, had no sanitary system, had no housing, etc. Nevertheless, in Russia, where the countryside was so underdeveloped, there were technological advanced industries. This is because there has been some transfer of capitalism developed from Western Europe. Therefore, in that country there were big contradictions, a very small concentrated industrial working class and a huge mass of peasants. Then the imperialist war came, with all the sufferings that war causes, such as hunger, misery, and death. This produced a longing of peace among the people. So really, peace was the great concern in Russia. Why did similar revolution take place in another underdeveloped countries? Because the objective conditions, hunger, misery, death, caused insurrections, movements, especially against the imperialist war, as happened in Russia. There, soldiers and peasants rose up against the system, against the war, and their slogan was peace, land, and liberty, with an emphasis on peace. So Lenin says, these countries are underdeveloped. It's true, but the war and his horrors produced the political necessary conditions for the proletariat, with the support of the peasantry, to take power. This is of great importance. We're going to look at this subject in more detail later, how in certain circumstances appropriate conditions for taking power are created in underdeveloped countries.